Welcome to the Hustle and Honey podcast, where we explore the sweetness, struggle, and success of running your own business. I'm Jen, and today we're talking with Lauren of Good Karma Photo. She is an amazing entrepreneur. She's an artist. She also does vintage resale. She is just an amazing entrepreneur that we are so excited to share with you guys today. She's a Phoenix local, so if you're in the Phoenix area, you can find all of her events and so much great stuff. So without any further ado, I'm going to introduce you to her.
Well, to start, I love to have my guests introduce. Also, this podcast was supposed to be me and like two other friends. And like our schedules rarely align for the other two girls to be on.
Of course.
So it's just me, but that's okay. I'm being brave and I'm doing it by myself, and I'm so glad you're here. So if you want to share who you are, what you do, let us know.
Yeah, great. My name is Lauren, and I am a photographer based here in Phoenix. I have always been an observer, so photography came very naturally to me. I like to document my life, situations around me, the environment, and people, and I just love being behind the lens. So I've been lucky enough to build a creative career that not only lets me to pursue photography as a service, but bridge that into making and creating art as well. So not only am I working with people, I get to do something that's fulfilling for me too, with photography at the core.
Yeah. I love it. I love that your brand and like business is so similar to mine, but also like so different. Like how you show up and the things you're creating, it's like so different. But like, yes, I love to paint. Yes, I like to take photos. But then there's like this huge difference of like what you can do with those things and how you can present it to the world. And that's like so exciting to me.
Absolutely. And I think about that too, because I look to you and I see that same pattern that you're kind of pointing out there. And it's very inspirational because a lot of the times, we're told, when we're starting a career, when you're fresh out of college or even going to college, that you sort of need to pick a lane. And for me, I've always been multi-passionate. I've never wanted to be the person that's doing that just one thing until the day I retire. So part of why I love having this creative career is that it kind of lets me grow into it. It's not the same thing every day. And as long as I'm open and flexible and like letting that growth kind of come into my life, like no day is the same. And that's exactly how I want it to be.
Yeah, I totally agree. I feel like that's a really common thing. Like from the time you like kind of start picking like your career path, like as a young adult, and you're like, okay, what do you want to be when you grow up? And it's like, you have to choose one thing, and that's fine. But it wasn't for me. Like I would just get so bored doing the same thing every day. And so I totally agree. Like having a creative passion business allows you to kind of like say yes to different projects and like do a little bit of everything.
Absolutely.
Yes. Okay. So kind of going into some of our like deeper questions, what would you say is the definition of success for you and your business?
Put me on the spot. It's the big one.
I just like go right to it every time. Sorry.
Great. I like it. This is the question I've been ruminating on, and it's something that I think changes for me. I've always kind of defined it differently. One thing that has kind of stayed the same, though, is that it's never really defined by a metric. It's more defined by a feeling. So it's not a monetary figure. Like I'm not defining success by making X amount of dollars or this partnership. Like that's not how I feel success. Again, like it's more of a feeling rather than like this thing, right? So for me, it's really, am I still growing? Am I still evolving? Am I challenging myself? Like if my work is getting boring, I need to switch things up. So if I can still find that growth and that change in my work, that is part of the success. The other thing that like lightens my spirit is my clients and my customers' reaction to my services and my product. So photography as a service, like when people see the results from a shoot and they light up and they're so excited and they're thrilled and they're like hyped up, that they have these images of themselves and their moments or whatever it is, like that to me is the success that kind of drives me to keep moving forward and keep getting better. And then even with Good Karma Photo on the product side, I recently launched an activation called Good Karma Mail. So it's essentially my postcards. I have a mailbox, everything you need to send the postcard. And part of it was me creating it because when I'm traveling or when I'm, in a place, and I like to collect postcards, I like to collect things. And I'll pick up postcards. I never know where to find a stamp. I never know where the post office is. And these things never get sent and they come home with me, right? So a lot of my customers at art markets and these festivals are often like visiting Arizona or visiting Phoenix. And I tied that in and like brought that into my business and my markets and my pop-ups. And the amount of people who are just delighted to send a postcard to a family member, to a friend, they write like the cutest messages. They want to use all the colors of the pens. They love picking out the stamp. And that just inspires me to keep going because it's like brightening someone else's day, even this from the simple little action of like this postcard is just bringing so much joy. And then even it continues because on the other end, the person who's receiving it, like they might not have heard from their friend or their family member. And it's just like this little spark of joy. So that to me is another way that I define it. Success is like making others happy.
Yeah. And I love your postcard situation because I feel like it's almost like performance art also. Like it is authentic, but it's also that interaction, like you're co-creating art. And to me, that's one of the biggest like drivers in my art passion is co-creating with other people. Like it's fine if I'm making art by myself, but like that goes into a totally different like deep dive of like what is art if only for yourself.
Right.
And to me, that's like if you're just creating for yourself, like you're also missing a point. So when you're creating with others, you're like building this like thing together, and like that is just chef's kiss, so perfect. And it's funny because I was in Spain and I had postcards and I bought the stamps and I got on the train and we were going I thought that there would be a mailbox at like the train station. We were going on the train to France and I was like, yeah, like that seems logical, right? Like government, whatever. It just made sense to my brain. I was like, I'm sure I'll see a post office on the way, like, or a box or like whatever. Well, we're like on the train and it's like not happening. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I have those with me. And it was like right before we crossed over the border. And I was like, fuck. And like the trains will stop, for like a second, but they don't like pause.
No, that's not enough time to search for a mailbox.
No. And so I'm like, oh my God. And I'd already stamped the postcards, like whatever. So I like get off the train. I like look around. There's like a lady that's like, she works for the train station. Like she's got like the like apron and like whatever. And I'm like, oh my God, can you mail these for me? I'm like, they're already stamped. I like just need to get that. Like, I just need to get them in a post office in Spain and I'm going to France. Like, it's not going to work. And she was like, and I'm like trying to say this to her, like in my broken Spanish, like, and she's like, oh, okay. And so I come home and I'm like, I really hope
like where did they end up, right? Like, are they still in her bag? Like, what?
Yeah, where did they go? But anyway, it was just like one of those things. And then a few months later, like I want to say it was like probably a full month or two later. Like my friend texted me and was like, oh, I just got your postcard. And I was like, how magical that this woman like had a total random stranger like shove postcards into her hands and like actually was a decent human and like took the 5 minutes to like put them in the mailbox for me.
Exactly. And that is just like such a pillar of like who I want to show up of in this world is like the person who like, I mean, we could go back and kind of like defining good karma. So like I define good karma as like good action, taking action. Because the word karma is essentially rooted in action. So for me, like taking action to even start the business, like it just felt right for me. So when I show up for my business and for myself and for others, whoever, if it's a stranger, if it's a client, just anyone, like, am I bringing my best self to the table? What am I offering? Can I help? Like, am I kind? Like, those are just kind of the things that I want to foster with my business and just in my life. So that woman, she's essentially kind of embodying the spirit that I want to embody because again, like it takes 5 minutes. How simple is it? You're helping somebody out. Like makes them feel good. It makes you feel good.
Yeah, totally. And it's just like, we need so much more of that in our reality that it's like any little bit just like builds and builds and builds.
Totally. And it's like, people are almost shocked by kindness. They're like, what are you trying to sell me? Or what's in it for you? And it's like, can I just be kind? Like, do you want me to open the store for you? Like, it's nothing to me. So
yeah, it's so easy. It's so easy to just be kind. And if you have those resources and that ability to like pay it forward, just do it.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I love that definition of success for you and your business. What would you say is, kind of shifting from that, what is one thing that you would say is a challenge in your current business, and how are you navigating it? Because the point of this podcast is to kind of like, one, inspire other small business owners, but two, give very real tools that people could use if they're struggling with like a concrete situation. And so I always like to ask, like, yeah, what is one thing that you found challenging, and then how did you navigate it?
For sure. Well, I'll give you my answer, and then I'd love to hear maybe some of your challenges too, since we're kind of navigating the same industry here. For me, I would say it's kind of a two answer to your question situation here. So I am not a salesperson. It's something that I can do. It's something that I don't like to do. So for me, I think one of the challenges that I face with Good Karma as a service and Good Karma as like the product is selling, getting clients, getting customers, because I am not the person to cold pitch or be salesy about what I'm doing. Again, because part of it's rooted in art. And I feel like for me, like maybe this is selfish, but I shouldn't have to sell it to you. It's either calling to you or it's not. You like my vibe, you like my photography style, or you don't. So sales, and then like networking and building kind of my community and having the opportunity to speak about my business. So I work from home. I'm not sharing a co-working space with anyone. The shoots that I do are often like, I'm going out, I'm shooting for you for a couple hours, I'm coming home and I'm editing, and that's it, unless we partner again. So part of how I'm solving that problem of networking and selling was going out into the community for art markets and for pop-ups with Good Karma to speak to my business. So not only am I popping up with prints and postcards, it's an opportunity to kind of bridge the gap between those two segments of my business where I can speak about the services that I offer. So not only do I have these prints, I also work full-time as a photographer. I shoot festivals, I work in the hospitality industry, and it kind of gets that conversation going between strangers who I would have never connected with before. So I know I've talked to you about, a lot of my business is word of mouth. So that to me, I feel like has been really helpful. I've had some repeat customers and inquiries about like scheduling shoots by doing those pop-ups and getting out in the community. So the networking, the salesy part might not come naturally or like feel good to me, but being able to do it in sort of a more authentic way that's kind of built into like what's already happening has definitely been a solution or a step to a solution of that challenge.
Yeah. I think that's like really a great model to kind of put yourself in the room with potential clients, because I feel like that is what I struggle with as well, is getting my work in front of my potential clients. Obviously I could post to Instagram and Facebook and all social media all day long, and unless somebody's already following you, it's almost kind of set up in a way where you can't get your stuff in front of new eyes. And so I think that that's a great method that you're utilizing. I think that what I've done, and I wouldn't necessarily, I don't know, I mean, I guess it's been successful in its own way, but like, yeah, I think just being brave and having that conversation when you meet someone new and just never stopping talking about what you're doing. So no matter what kind of work I'm doing, because I do freelance a lot of different things, it's like, when I'm talking to them, it's like telling or sharing a story of like, oh, well, when I was doing henna, oh, when I was doing photos, when I was, and I'm just having that conversation. And oftentimes people are like, oh, I didn't know you did that. Mm-hmm. And we think that the people around us know what we do, but like
into our forehead. It's not.
Like they don't know what we do. And it's just like, wow, I'm taking pictures all the time. Don't you notice that I always have a camera with me? And they don't.
Yeah.
So I think that just constant sharing of your skills, just in conversation. And it's not a sales pitch, because I don't need the people that I'm interacting with to hire me, but I do want them to think of me the next time somebody else says, I'm looking for this, or I need that. Then I want my name to come up in their brain. But I'm not trying to make direct sales to every single person I meet, because I read, or I don't know, I guess like learned this from a really lovely flower essence maker in Phoenix. And she kind of said, like, she's shared a story about how sometimes you think like, oh, if this person gave me a massage, then I should like give them a massage, right? Like, you rub my feet, I'll rub yours.
Mm-hmm.
But like, what if the thing that was actually better for everyone is like someone rubbed your feet, but then you were able to cook a meal for somebody else because you were relaxed, you were calm, you were in a better place. So you were able to bake a cake. And now that like served more people. Like, doesn't have to be like, oh, I did this favor for you, or I hired you for this, now I want you to call me for that. It's like, it kind of can flow and move forward. So don't think about it as kind of that direct, I don't know, interaction or direct exchange. There's always room for like a different kind of flow to it. Yeah. So that's just kind of one way that I've kind of started looking at how I talk to people about my business. It's like, I'm not trying to like, one-on-one you. It's like, I'm trying to like just share what I do.
Yeah, I'm putting it out there. I think that's the best way. Like you hit it earlier. It's like just speaking on it. And I feel like for a long time, I wasn't even speaking on it, and I was expecting to be booked. And it took a little bit of self-reflection to realize that, this might be an uncomfortable part of the work, but it is the work, and it is something that I have to do if I want to continue having this business and working in creative. Like, it's not my favorite thing, but it is a thing that has to get done.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like other ways that I've done it in the past too is like my portrait project, which was like one thing that you participated in, where it was like, I was just trying to get as many people as I could in front of my camera. And I didn't care if I did it for free or super discounted or donation based. I just wanted to get more people in front of my camera. And I'm a little nervous about like street photography, just walking up to someone and taking their photos. Mm-hmm. Just like we live in a modern society where that's not always acceptable. So by putting that out there, that was a really fun way to connect with a lot of people too. So I think, just reflecting on how you can connect with more humans, right? Like if you have a business, then you need to be connecting with more people. So the best way to do that is however you can.
Right. And, the part of the challenge too is, again, I work from home. I don't have a storefront or a studio or a brick and mortar space that people might naturally be coming into because they're going to the coffee shop next door, or it's on the way to their doctor's appointment, or it's next to Trader Joe's. So I don't have like that space where people are just coming into. So I have to go to the people. Yeah,
totally. Yeah, that is the hardest part, I would say, about the freelancing industry, is like that almost like loneliness. Like you don't have coworkers, like you do in a way, but it's not that same every day you get to see the same people. That is one perk or benefit to having a 9-to-5, is you kind of have that little built-in community.
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay. So, what would you say? Where do I want to jump around to next?
I don't know. Telling me.
Yeah. Okay, I want to say that one for later. Oh, who is someone that you look up to in your industry or that you enjoy learning from? So even if it's not like your direct industry, you're kind of in a few different ones, but it could be somebody that you're learning from that's like helping you out, or it could be somebody that's doing what you're doing in a different way. But yeah, I know. Sorry, think about it. Just the first person who pops into your mind.
That's such a good question. So I try not to like, I don't know if imitation or modeling would probably be a better way to phrase it. I try not to model my business, my vibe, or my brand off of like anything that already existed. I really want it to be like a reflection of me, and part of that is like being able to let it grow and kind of fluctuate. So when it comes to like the business side of my brand, it's tough to kind of nail one thing down. I think I draw a lot of inspiration from like modern brands who are kind of taking new approaches to content creation and styling. And, you know, off the top, like I can't, gosh, I wish I could like rattle off names for you, but that's just so not me. Like I have such awful recall. But you know, I don't spend a lot of time on Pinterest. I don't really, I don't know. I don't have like an archive of, you know, people who I model what I would want to do. I will say in essence and in spirit and in style, I really love Chloe Sevigny's vibe. Like, I think she is a multi-talented artist who is not only an actress, but a incredibly impeccable. She has her style is just like off the chart. She's been like a style icon for like 3 decades now, since the 90s. And to me, like, I feel like she just shows up authentically as herself, like whatever situation. And it's not like I know her, like this is a celebrity who lives in New York, but from what I see, her entire just like ethos and approach to life just seems so authentic and organic and just natural to who she is. So I'm constantly trying to go back to finding that in my own self. So I would say if I had to like equate a model of who I'm aspiring to or looking to or finding inspiration in, I would say it's her for sure.
Yeah, totally. And I think that's like a really common response to that question, because a lot of the people that I'm interviewing and talking with are people that are doing their own thing. They're creating these, you know, everybody that has a successful business is solving a problem that's never been solved before, right? Or like creating something that's never been created before. That's why they're successful. And so it is a challenging question, but I'm always curious because I feel like on the business side of things, I'm constantly like devouring new books on creativity and how to like get a little deeper, or, you know, just in photography, like there's somebody that I'll be like, I'm looking at every single photo they post and I'm just like, dang, like how does their brain work to get them to compose that in this way? So yeah, I always like to just, you know, just in case there's someone really inspirational out there.
Yeah. You know, and the question, it gives me perspective of like, maybe I should be looking to more inspirations or to learning from others. Like I listen to podcasts, like Rich Roll has incredible guests on his show in business, in sport, whatever it is. He recently had a therapist on who has had just this tenure in the career that has spanned decades. And it's just really inspiring because, again, this is a person who kind of like pushed the mold and wasn't doing things as prescribed that many in the field had. And he was kind of like pushing the boundaries. And I do find inspiration from things like that. I think it's kind of like those little glimmers of inspiration come, and then I take what I need to take from it, and then it kind of goes away. So I'm always kind of like moving forward, right? So I'm not like ruminating or reflecting a lot on it. It's like kind of in that moment of like, wow, that's a really interesting perspective. Like, I love that. Like, maybe I'll apply that to my life, or I'll think about this in a different way. So
yeah, I call that like finding little treasures. Just like pick them up, put them in my pocket, and just carry on with my day.
Exactly. And it does feel like that. And I think like, you know, if you're out on a walk or you're doing the dishes and you just have a podcast plugged in, like, you're going to find a little treasure.
Yeah.
There's a little treasure in there.
Yeah. Okay. Ooh, this is a good one. Right now, what is your favorite service or offering or product? Like, what are you the most proud of at this exact moment? I know we talked about your postcards and maybe that's it, but what else?
Yeah, so I definitely love Good Karma Mail. A little bit more into that. Like, I was very inspired by, you might have seen this like on TikTok or Instagram, where creators and artists who do art markets or whatever sort of activation that they're into have like those early 2000s or 90s sticker machines where there's like a mini print inside and you put in your quarters and you pull something out, or it's like the gumball machine and you get your little plastic bubble with like the earrings or whatever. So I've seen some creators do locally and, you know, on social media do things like that. And I was really inspired by that. And I was like, I don't want to copy it. I don't ever want to do like the same thing. So how can I have a similar experience? Like the experience part was big for me, like bringing the customer in, like we talked about earlier. How can I create an experience without copying like this exact same thing that these other people are doing? So Good Karma Mail came to me because postcards, the mailbox, let's solve the problem too. So it's the experience, the activation part of it, and then solving the problem of where do we mail these things, like for the people who want to mail it versus, tack it up on their wall or stick it on their fridge. So I bought just simple mailbox from Home Depot, painted it bright pink. It fits really well within like the vibe that I have for my pop-ups, and it's been a success. And for me, I think that like that's one of the favorite things that I'm doing right now, because it does spark joy and people are so excited to see it and kind of take part in that experience. And then it's just kind of an authentic, natural way to show my art. So it's the postcard, it's original artwork, so it's either digital or photographs, like they're essentially mini prints.
Yeah.
And it's getting my art in front of people and they're enjoying it while they get to play with it too.
Yeah. And I love your postcards. They're so sturdy. They're like the best texture to like the textile of them.
Yeah, they have like that soft matte finish front, which I love. And it's been an evolution. So like the first round of postcards that I did, the paperweight wasn't quite as heavy, didn't have that beautiful finish front like I do now. So it's definitely been an evolution. They're a little bit redesigned now, but I'm glad you like them. Like I want to offer something, excuse me, that, it's sturdy. It'll stand up to like as a product, and, they're getting mailed. They got to get to their destination too. So
yeah, absolutely.
I would say, in addition, so again, like back to Karma, it's photography as a service, and then like the product art side of it too. So about the service side, one thing I'm excited about, and I was partly inspired by you too, was the shoots that you were doing last summer of your portrait sessions. I was so inspired by that. I wanted to do something similar this summer. So I'm kind of thinking about a creator trade, essentially, where in exchange, if whoever is up for it, photos reciprocated with whatever it is, right? Sort of kind of like an equal value trade situation. Again, just to get people in front of my camera to practice, I really want to start doing some more things creatively versus, the clients who kind of have an idea of what they want already. So I'm looking for people who are open to maybe getting a little funky behind the camera. And then I'm also stepping back into video. So a few years ago when I was doing like the food influencing thing, I was spending a lot more time doing video and editing, and it's something that kind of just got away from me because I didn't, have deadlines or, plans on my calendar to do these things. So I have a few YouTube films in the works, and I'm doing some video editing, and I'm making it a priority to start shooting more video too. I think, part of it is that, it kind of got away from me for a while, but I don't see a lot of women working in videography and doing, that. So I would love, I mean, photography too, even like it's very male dominated. So I think that's important to me to kind of have the representation in that field as well. But again, for me too, it's creatively, I'm kind of pushing my boundary in my comfort zone and, having fun. Like, again, like back to the evolution of things and growing, like I want to be able to have fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's like so important to have that like fulfilled inner child. Like that is part of one of my definitions of success, is like making that little Jen happy.
Yeah.
And so yes, video. That's like another like little reminder to myself that I need to be doing more video. I do video on like on my phone, and I think 2 or 3 years ago I was doing like home videos. I was trying to like, just for myself and my own family, like take all those little short videos throughout, the vacation or whatever, and like actually put them together, put them to proper music, and like do all of that. And then it kind of fizzled. I haven't been doing that. So that's like, thank you for the reminder.
Yes, right. No, I love the home movies part. Like, I don't want to get like too deep here. We could go for a deep cut, but I feel like for me, photography kind of called to me for a number of reasons, but part of it is memory. So I don't have the greatest memory, like, to be honest.
Same.
Like things are very fleeting for me. So I rely on what I document and my camera to really kind of capture those moments. And, you know, it's crazy to think of it like that way, but I think that having a camera with me is really important for my life.
Yeah, I absolutely am in the exact same boat. My grandma actually passed away from Alzheimer's, I want to say like 5 years ago. And that's always been kind of because my memory is so like just a bit trash. I'm always like, you know, paranoid about that and worried about that. And I wouldn't even say worried, but it's something on my radar. And so,
Absolutely.
yeah. And so I'm like, okay, I want to make sure that I preserve these memories for my future self. And so that's the same reason that I started taking photography more seriously. And then, yeah, with the video too, it's like, I want those memories to be able to be passed along to my kids when they're a little bit older and when they don't really, you know, you don't really remember your childhood. At least I don't,
Yeah.
very thoroughly. So
No,
I'm like,
I totally get it. And like, I'll have friends who say, remember that one time when I said this one thing? And I was like,
no.
I remember a conversation, like word for word, like, wow, your operating system, like I need to update or something because you're not running the same program. But yeah, documenting the family photos too is huge. Like, my grandma passed away when I was in elementary school, but she had these boxes, you know, her wedding album from when she got married, like in the late 40s, early 50s, if I'm right. But it's just like this beautiful wedding album with all of these beautiful 8x10s preserved like to perfection. And then my uncle and my mom, like pictures from their childhood, and my grandpa, it's just like everything was like packed away in this box. And I feel like it's my responsibility now to kind of like oversee that and like make sure that things get documented because, you know, I don't know if she had that feeling. Like, I don't know if that was her intention. You know, photos were, I don't want to say a lot more special, but like they were different. Like they were a lot more special because not everyone was running around with a camera on their phone. You know, we weren't documenting every moment. It was expensive. Not everybody could afford it. There's this image of my uncle and my mom on a donkey. So they grew up in LA. It's where my grandparents lived. And apparently this was a thing that would happen like in neighborhoods in LA is a man would kind of come around your neighborhood with his donkey and some hats and accessories and say, would you like to take a photo on the donkey?
Yeah.
And that was like a way to get fun photos of your kids. So those are some of my favorites. Like there's this one of my mom's a few years younger than my uncle, but he's probably in like first grade. And she is just screaming, crying on this donkey. And he's just like in his little cowboy hat, just loving life. And that is so special. Like there's no like replicating that. And it's just such interesting. Like, I don't know if it was her intention to like preserve all of these memories so that people could look at them later or what her intention was behind it. But for me, like, I definitely want to start archiving and being more mindful about like preserving the big moments because like when do we take images of ourselves other than like weddings and graduations? Like it's not really happening. Like little milestones, they can sometimes get lost. So I don't want those moments to get lost.
I agree. And I think that as a parent and as like, well, just as like a human existing, I think because we have cell phones that take photos, that take good photos, I think they get a little bit, I don't know the exact word I want to use here, but they kind of get just kind of, they're like instant gratification and then discard. So we took the photo, we saw the photo, we posted the photo, and then they're gone. And then we have, I mean, I don't know about you, but I have thousands of photos on my phone and saved on my computer. And that's not the archival system that my kids are going to sort through because it's too overwhelming.
Right.
And so for me, it's really important to take the time to print photos as well. And that's actually like, I did a summer list with my kiddos and I was like, okay, we're going to like do something fun every day. And that's like one of my activities is to like take our phones to like, even just the shitty like Walgreens. Like I wouldn't send people there for printing their wedding photos. But for this purpose, I think that like, you know, going to the Target print lab where it's like you just airdrop or you just plug in your SD card or like whatever it is and you print out all those photos. To me, there's something just so special about having that photo box, like you're saying, of just they're printed and they're here. And those photos are the ones that you save and you pass down and that people, you share too. So yeah, I'm about it.
And it is, everybody does have a camera, and it's crazy because like you've probably seen this, like Gen Z versus, Gen X or millennial, like how do you hold a camera or how do you take a phone call? So like the camera, like you and I would probably say like, this is like how you would like signal a camera, right?
Yeah.
The younger generations, it's this, like, this is the signal that they're holding because like phone,
yeah.
right? So it's like same with like phone. Hello, like here's the phone. This is the phone.
Right.
So it's like it's all one thing now. So I don't know where I'm going with that thought, but it's just interesting to see like how things change. Even now, like reflecting on like, the man with the donkey and his camera setup, I'm sure was very cumbersome and heavy. And he's just slogging through these neighborhoods, like seeing who wants to have their photo taken. Like the technology can change so quickly. And I'm glad it's more accessible, definitely. But a lot of it, I feel like you said, like just the instant gratification is kind of like a throwaway thing. Like we're not really valuing them.
Yeah. I agree. Okay. I got a few more questions for you. I'm gonna ask you, sorry. I'm gonna ask you, what are 3 things that you tell every customer or client? Something that you find yourself repeating to your customer base. And it can be really broad or it can be very specific. But part of this podcast is just to get good old fashioned advice. And so it can really be literally anything, but just maybe that you repeat a lot or that you think everybody needs to know. Like one of mine is like, stay hydrated, drink water.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, that's good. I feel like I need to start telling people that. Probably, oh my God, you look so great. Like, I love this, right? Like just whatever that is, the gratification from when I'm behind the lens to like get people smiling and like keep them motivated. Like personally, I hate having my image taken. Like I don't like to be in front of the camera. And I know that not every client is going to love to be in front of the camera. So just hyping them up and like, giving them credit where it's due. Like you do look really good. Like you do look fire. Like that look is great. Like you have a gorgeous smile. Whatever that affirmation is, like that is something for sure. When it comes to my booth, I kind of have, those 1 to 2 sentences about like, I work as a photographer in Phoenix. My work is very desert inspired. I like to capture light and shadow, that sort of thing, just kind of like giving this feel of like what you're looking at, like let me explain it to you. And then a third thing, gosh, this is tough because like I guess I'm not always mindful, and I guess it's good because like I don't have a script, right? Like I kind of live unscripted. But I guess it would be just checking in on people. Like, do you need help? Are you okay? Especially when it comes to like neighbors at art markets, because sometimes not everybody's so friendly. And that's, I want to show up. I want to be kind. I want to offer help. So like offering my services, like, do you need me to booth sit? Do you need help unloading that? Can I help you? If I'm done and I'm packed up and there's a solo person, because I do a lot of my markets on my own, that's your tables get heavy and you have a lot of things to carry and your product doesn't move itself. So if someone needs me to carry a box to their car, like I'm offering service. So
yeah, I think that's so interesting to hear your 3, because I think they all come back to your brand without like direct intention. It just happens because you are like caring about others. So you're offering that support when it's needed. And, you're explaining your why to them in real time, which is so helpful of like, okay, this is what I'm creating. And this is why I'm creating it. And like, yeah, I think those are great. Those are great 3 things. Okay.
What would you, okay, I got to flip it on you. What are your 3?
So I would say, yeah, the drinking the water.
That's one, right?
That's one. Gosh, now I'm on the spot. Okay, let me think about it.
I know the tables have turned.
Yeah. I think I like to tell people to get weird.
Yeah.
That's another one. That's like a big prompt in Photoland, but it's also a prompt that I use in my classroom as well, or when I'm teaching any art form, is that I encourage like the weirder the better. And Now I'm thinking if I want to say from like art or photo perspective, but I think that it just comes back to like, gosh, this is going to be a long edit for me when I get back into this video later.
I know it's tough because like
I thought it would just come out right away. Hold on.
Right. Yeah, you gotta ruminate on it a little bit. Like because if these things aren't like top of mind, like you're not, thinking about them constantly, it takes a little bit of reflection for them to come up because like you'll say it or you'll think on it later and be like, that was so obvious. Like that is a thing that I do all the time. It wasn't in that moment, but we were just talking about our memory. So
yeah,
forget it. We don't have a number 3. I think
I think the other third one that's not exciting or glamorous is wear comfortable shoes. I find myself telling people that all the time.
I get behind that.
Yeah, just because I think that those are kind of my 3 pieces of advice. Like I wanted something sexier, but no, I really think that that's it.
That's a good one. I can't tell you the last time that I wore heels.
Yeah, no.
How it is. I'm a comfy shoe girly now. I don't need to wear heels.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll have a little platform or a wedge, but heels, oh, come on. You're damaging your feet.
Yeah, just take care of your body. I think that's kind of like at the core, that's one of my core values is like take care of yourself. Yeah. And especially in this industry of taking photos, I want to be able to use my body. That's my biggest tool for as long as possible. And so just being hyper aware of how I'm using my body, what I'm putting in my body, what I'm wearing, the time and energy of when I'm shooting, just all of those things. So yeah, I think I was spending a lot of time trying to find a really good, exciting one, but no, really it is. It's wear the good shoes, the comfortable shoes, and drink the water.
Yeah, I mean, and it's so practical too. But again, it's at the core of like who you are and who you are showing up as. So yeah, I love it. It resonates. It hits. I'm all for drinking more water and staying weird and wearing comfy shoes. Like I hit all 3 of those every day.
Okay. Well, I think I have 2 questions for you. Cool. One is a fun one that Meesh, my fellow co-host, she likes to ask everyone, which is, what was your first job?
Okay. So I grew up in a place called Brownsville, Oregon. It's in rural Lynn County in the Willamette Valley in Oregon. So if you've ever been there, to give you a sense of place, it's about equal distance between the University of Oregon in Eugene and Oregon State University in Corvallis, right off the highway. Lynn County's claim to fame is being the grass seed capital of the world. So grass seed turns into hay. And my grandpa and his wife, Sally, my grandma, relocated to Brownsville to retire in the 80s. And he was not one to take retirement lightly. So he started a farm. So that farm, for many years, their number one was baling hay. So my first job was on a tractor baling hay with my grandpa in Lynn County.
Let's see. How old were you when you were doing that?
This was in high school. So like 16, 17.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cute. And it very much like, I know summer breaks have changed and like the summer schedule for kids now is a little bit different, but in Oregon, it was like you had the whole summer, like June to September off because a lot of the kids in these rural communities were like working on the farms, like driving tractors or combines or whatever it is as summer jobs, because that's like when the industry was most lucrative and like was going off. So summer was very much a time to work for a lot of people. But I have good memories of it. Like my grandpa employed, like he would be like a second cousin to me, a little bit older. So he's like my mom's cousin, so second cousin. So he would come up from California and he's I have a lot of free spirits in my family. Some people who kind of like live on the fringes and kind of like outside of like what a normal day-to-day would look like. So he's one of those guys who was like doing van life before van life was a thing. So he would come up and work and he was really just, I wouldn't call him a role model, But he was just an interesting person to work with. And, you know, growing up in a small rural community, you don't really have a lot of exposure to a lot of different types of people. Like, it was very heavy in the farming, and, you know, you weren't meeting a ton of artists or people from California or people from big cities or from different cultures or, you know, walks of life. So like spending time with just like him was really fun, and he always had my back. So like if something would go wrong, it was never my fault. Like if I did something wrong, it was like, you know, no, we didn't. Yeah. So I'm all these things are coming back to me now, but
okay, we do have good memories.
yeah, my first job was driving a tractor. So
Very cool.
How about you? What was your first job?
My first like job, and that's usually the question when we ask people. They're like, my first real job or my first, and I'm like, whatever you want. So my first like jobs were babysitting. My first like real job where I got a paycheck and I had to turn in my W-2, like all those things.
Yeah.
I was a smoothie girl at One Stop Nutrition, the original One Stop Nutrition.
Okay.
Hi, Brian, if you're listening. Yeah, they were lovely to work for. And now they're franchised and they're everywhere. But I was like one of the original like smoothie girls. So I would like make your protein shake to order. And to this day, I still make the best protein shake ever.
I'm gonna see you have the smoothie knowledge, you know, your ratios and what goes together. And
yeah. And the secret to me, for me personally, is frozen bananas. You want to freeze your bananas. And you don't really need as much ice or any ice, honestly, because if your bananas are frozen and your fruit is frozen, you're good to go. And using like a little coconut water, something to like top it off. And yeah, that's that. So that was my first job. But I remember babysitting for people, and like I remember I got my like babysitter CPR certification. And this woman in my neighborhood had me watch. I mean, it must have been a newborn. Like as a grown ass adult woman now with my own children, I'm like, that woman left 12, maybe 13-year-old me with her newborn baby.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's crazy. Like, you know, a lot of the reflection you have as an adult about like things that happened or shouldn't have happened. It's like mental note, like, yikes. And you know what? I'm sure everything was great.
Everything was great. Baby was fine. I'm a great babysitter. But just now with my own precious babies that I grew myself, like, yeah. That's that. Okay, my very, very, very last question for you. What is something that you would tell yourself that could get you to where you are in business land and entrepreneur land quicker? So we're going to time travel back, see past Lauren, and just give her one little tip to get her to where you are now, but quicker.
Okay. Interesting. So this is like one of those butterfly effect things, like you change one thing and everything changes, right? So like, I don't know if we would be the same, if we would be moving in the same direction now, if I were to change anything. So that's tricky for me. Reflecting back, like this is something that really prompted me to get a little bit more serious about my creative brand and bridge out into the community with Good Karma Photo, was that I spent most of my 20s, putting art to the wayside. Like it really fell off because I was looking to fulfill career objectives that weren't exactly aligned with like the direction that I wanted to go, or chasing paychecks because I needed to pay my bills. So art, photography, the whole thing, it kind of took a back seat to like those more pressing issues of like, well, the rent is due. We don't have time to go play and make art. Like we have to go clock in. We have to go to work. We have to take these jobs that we might not love. So, and I say we because again, like you mentioned your inner child. I always feel like a younger version of myself is kind of like tagging along with me. So I like to look to her a lot of the times as like inspiration to keep moving forward, or like think about like, well, 14-year-old Lauren would love this. So I'm definitely on the right track sort of thing. But if there was one thing that I would change, it would be being, and I feel like I'm pretty affirm in it now, but again, in my early 20s, when I was trying to figure out like where I was going, what I was doing, like finding a place in my life, which I think a lot of people struggle with, like especially women too, especially people in the creative industry, was finding my own voice and doing things for myself versus doing things because one, I was told to, or doing it because of like this larger society expects you to be this, so you need to do that sort of thing. So for me, like, I'm really glad that I went to college. I went to ASU. I studied communication journalism there, which I do put to use. During that time, though, I was also working like 3 part-time jobs to pay the bills. I was really distracted. I wasn't able to have like that full immersive college experience that a lot of people who are funded in their early 20s can kind of just have. So I feel like my college experience was a little bit different than, you know, the stereotypical thing, but like, it's a privilege. Like, I was able to go to college and I really have benefit from it. I was first generation college student. But part of that was, you know, after high school, that's what you're supposed to do. You're going to get a job or you're going to go to college. And I think that's a lot of pressure to put on someone who's freshly 18 and doesn't know a whole lot about the world. And that was me. And I felt like college was the next logical thing that I needed to do. Again, very grateful. It's a privilege. I met my husband in college. I've had a lot of great experiences and it has benefited me. But reflecting back, like, I might have taken a different direction when I was of maybe traveling or starting, giving myself, like I'm able to now, like the freedom and flexibility to sort of pursue different things before like locking in to a more firm life path, which now, like, reflecting back, like, I've been able to kind of like carve my own path. But for a long time, I was sort of like following the path that was already laid out for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's really great advice for any young person, especially with the cost of college education now. Like, even my own children, I'm like, I would love to have my kids as they are a little bit older, like getting into high school age, being like, okay, let's just take one online community class, a year, so that when they're done with their high school experience, they have a few, or like dual enrollment with AP classes, things like that, where they're a little bit ahead of the game with those college credits, and then doing community college first at that lower cost, just kind of getting the like associate's degree, because you don't need to have your defined professional degree right away, and you almost don't know what you want to do until then. So like starting with just the very basics of math, science, those kind of things. And then once you kind of really get comfortable with the idea of what you want to do for your career, then maybe going back to a university setting or to a trade school or right. to whatever, or maybe not. Maybe you don't need those things. Maybe you get the associate's degree, and in that meantime, you've had the time to start your business, and now you're an entrepreneur and your business is successful. Like, maybe that does work out right away too. But yeah, I definitely agree that was something that was pushed onto, I think, our generation really aggressively, and it was affordable to an extent at that time. But even my sister, who graduated college just a few years after me, her tuition was 4 times as much as mine.
Yeah.
So it's like, I would never want to tell a young adult, like, you should go to college, unless that's like, they know that they want to do a career that requires that specific degree. But if you're unsure, unsettled, and you don't know yet, take your time, keep learning, but don't necessarily put yourself in that situation of a university. But yeah, like you said, like, you are who you are because of the life that you have lived. So you don't necessarily want to change anything, but yeah, sometimes there's a few cheat codes we can, like, help our past self out with.
Yeah. Another thing that I would kind of add on to that is like, just giving yourself room to change. Like, I don't want to say I've lived many lives, because I have like these experiences and like these very apparent like crossroads of like, we could go this way or we could go that way. And I was going down the corporate path for a while. Like, when I started at ASU, I wanted to be a talking head on the local news. Like, that was my objective. Like, I wanted to be reporting the news, and that was, the dream. And very quickly, I realized that wasn't what I wanted to be doing. So I think, like, again, the societal pressure, whether it's coming from society as a whole, your family, your parents, like, I know a lot of people struggle with that, of like, there is this just obligation that you must fulfill to appease everyone. Like, let it go, let that shit go. Like, you're an adult. Like, it is time to like show up for yourself. And like, if it's not working out for you, if you're not satisfied, if you're not enjoying something that you loved 5 years ago, entertain other possibilities, because there's no purpose to continue slogging through something that you're not enjoying. So if I continued, pursuing broadcasting, like, would I be happy? Probably not. Like, I'd be underpaid, overworked, dealing with, all the politics of working in a newsroom. And I don't know. I'm glad that I gave myself the ability to sort of navigate away from like what was sort of inked. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that it's also really important to be a multifaceted person with backgrounds that maybe are different than what your industry requires. So like you probably took skills and things from that experience that you're able to apply to your life now. And
Absolutely.
maybe it's not, it might not be exactly, what that lesson was intended for, but it's probably serving you in one way or another now too. So
yeah, that's a really great point, because I can think of a million ways where they're not directly related, but they are, in a sense that like I'm able to apply some of these things to what I'm doing.
yeah.
That's a great point.
Well, thank you so much for chatting with me. Do you want to share kind of like what's next for you, what you're up to? I'm probably going to be posting these probably like mid-August, so it might be a little bit into summer or after summer when these actually go live. But if there's anything in the future that you're working on or currently working on that we can find out about then.
Yeah, definitely. So Good Karma Photography as a Service, I am always looking for new customers who, like you would say, want to get weird. I'm trying to bridge out and do more creative work. So anyone who's interested in sort of capturing their own brand, their own business, whatever it is that they want to do, I'm looking to work with independent brands and creators and creatives and artists who want to sort of push the boundaries and create some really interesting content. And then for the fall art market season and winter art market season, that will be here before we know it. So I will be doing some art markets, especially around the holidays and going into fall. So I'll post a schedule at Good Karma Photo on Instagram, where you can see that if you want to come check out the art, check out the other artists. Like, I like to be intentional about sort of these markets where I go. So if you come out, you know that you're going to be meeting some cool people. There'll probably be good food and lots of other artists to hang out with and chat with.
Yes. Yay. Well, I'll link all of that in the notes and post about it when this goes live. So thanks for chatting with me today.
Of course. Thanks for listening to me and dealing with my memory lapses and answering my questions too. So it's always a joy to catch up with you.
Thank you guys so much for hanging out today, listening to our interview. I hope you loved it. I hope you learned something new. I hope you learned something you can apply to your own business. Just a reminder that I am doing model calls for any experienced models. So if you guys are interested in collaborating with me as the photographer, you as the model, or someone you know, please DM me, follow up. Otherwise, just like and subscribe to this video and channel, and we would love for you to reach out on social. Happy Tuesday, and I hope you guys are excited for our next episode as well.